Good evening on World News Tonight. Political escalations. Leader of Venezuela Nicolas Maduro pleads not guilty after facing courts. Weather alert. The weather in Indonesia has worsened as floods have taken the lives of 14. Emotional reunion. Woman after being abducted at age 3 reunites with her biological family for the season. Good evening and thank you for joining us on World News Tonight on the Derana News channel. I'm Amasha Fernando and we start with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pleading not guilty to 4 charges in a U.S. federal court, with each carrying a potential life sentence. Meanwhile, Venezuela's Vice President and Oil Minister Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn in as the country's interim president.
Deposed Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro pleaded not guilty to charges in the U.S., including narco-terrorism, drug trafficking, and weapons offenses. Maduro entered the plea in a federal court in Manhattan just days after being captured by U.S. Special Forces in an operation ordered by U.S. President Donald Trump. The arraignment lasted less than 30 minutes, with the judge confirming Maduro's identity and that he understood the 4 charges against him. During the hearing, Maduro insisted he remains Venezuela's legitimate president, calling his capture illegal and describing himself as a prisoner of war. Maduro faces 4 federal counts, each carrying a potential life sentence. The case quickly spilled onto the international stage. At an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council on Monday, the U.S. rejected accusations of aggression against Venezuela, arguing the operation was an act of law enforcement tied to long-standing criminal charges.
As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country. This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades.
However, Colombia, which requested the meeting, condemned the U.S. operation as a clear violation of Venezuela's sovereignty, political independence, and territorial integrity.
There is no justification whatsoever under any circumstances for the unilateral use of force to commit an act of aggression. Such action constitutes a violation of international law and the United Nations Charter.
Russia also accused Washington of abducting Venezuela's elected leader and demanded Maduro's immediate release, with Moscow's ambassador saying the United States had breached international law. Meanwhile, Venezuela announced a new interim leader. Vice President and Oil Minister Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn in as interim president on Monday. The 56-year-old labor lawyer was sworn in by her brother, National Assembly head Jorge Rodriguez. Earlier in the day, Rodriguez struck a conciliatory tone toward Washington, inviting the U.S. government to cooperate on a future agenda. She said Venezuela aspires to live without external threats and hopes to move toward balanced and respectful relations with Washington. Her remarks marked a notable shift from earlier statements, expressing firm support for Maduro, as Venezuela faces one of the most consequential political crises in its modern history.
Summit between South Korea and China has focused on the key points that include strengthening bilateral ties and achieving peace on the Korean peninsula.
The summit in Beijing began with the red carpet treatment and a 21-gun salute, as President Lee Jae-myung was given an official welcome by his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. During their 90-minute-long talks on Monday, the South Korean leader vowed to consolidate the Seoul-Beijing strategic partnership and make it irreversible. The sentiment was echoed by the Chinese leader.
As friends and neighbors, there should be more frequent visits between China and South Korea, and the 2 countries should communicate more actively.
High on the agenda was resuming dialogue with North Korea. Amid complicated geopolitics, she noted the 2 countries fighting together in the past against Japan's colonialism in the early 20th century.
The 2 countries should firmly stand on the right side of history and make the choices that are strategically right.
And according to China's Xinhua News, she called for the need to work together to oppose protectionism and practice true multilateralism, apparently with Beijing's rivalry with Washington in mind. After the talks, more than a dozen MOUs were signed, including on climate, digital technology, and intellectual property rights. Also on the table were sensitive issues, such as China's unauthorized steel structures in the West Sea.
As the maritime boundary in the West Sea has not been clearly demarcated, the two sides agreed to hold vice-ministerial talks within this year to discuss defining the boundary.
On the cultural front, the leaders have agreed to gradually expand exchanges, beginning in areas including the board game Go and soccer, amid China's unofficial ban on Korean cultural content. Also suggested was China expanding its delegation of pandas. Other focuses were addressing negative sentiment and hate speech targeting each other's countries, as well as expanding cooperation on investment and supply chains. Yi was the first state guest to be hosted by Xi in the new year, and it was their second summit in around 2 months.
Officials said at least 14 people were killed after being swept away by flash floods in Indonesia's North Sulawesi as the search for missing continued.
Flash floods struck the island of Siau in Indonesia's Siau Tagulandang Piaro region after intense rainfall early in the day. Local authorities say the sudden surge of water swept through residential areas, burying homes, roads under thick mud, rocks and debris. Rescue teams have been racing against time to reach affected communities. According to the local rescue agency, 16 rescuers have been deployed in the search for 4 people still missing. At least 18 others have been injured. Excavators were brought in to clear major roads blocked by landslides, while residents and emergency workers worked together to recover bodies trapped beneath and before transporting them to nearby hospitals. North Sulawesi Governor Julius Selvanas said the floods destroyed hundreds of houses and governing buildings. Indonesia's weather agency says the floods occurred during the peak of the wet season in Sulawesi, with more heavy rain forecast coming in future.
Iranian authorities announced they would give a monthly allowance to every citizen in the country to alleviate economic pressure after a week of protests.
Police in Tehran deployed tear gas to disperse protesters on the 8th day of demonstrations against the high cost of living in Iran. Several people were reported killed in protests in the west of the country on Saturday. The protests have gained momentum since a shopkeepers' strike in the capital on December 28th. Racked by US and international sanctions, Iran has struggled with inflation, which rose to 52% year-on-year last month. In response to the country's precarious economic situation, the government on Sunday announced it would give a monthly allowance worth $7 per person for the coming months.
Individuals can receive an amount equivalent to 1 million tomans per person per month. This is credit. It is in line with reducing the economic pressure on the people. The president ordered that this amount be paid to all people, so all Iranian people will receive it.
There have been more than a dozen people killed since the start of the current protests. Speaking to reporters on Air Force One on Sunday, US President Donald Trump said Washington could step in.
Watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Trump had earlier in the week said the United States was locked and loaded and ready to go to intervene in Iran, which drew threats of retaliation against US forces from the Iranian government, with Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei saying Iran would not yield to the enemy.
Greenland's leader declared enough is enough, and Denmark allies in Europe affirmed that the Arctic island's future must be determined by its people, rebuffing renewed remarks by Trump about acquiring the vast territory.
Greenland's leader has declared enough is enough after US President Donald Trump again spoke of taking over the vast territory. Trump has repeatedly said he wants to annex Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory with significant mineral resources. Concerns have sharpened in Greenland and Denmark after the capture of Venezuela's president in a stunning US raid on Saturday, with Trump stating Washington intended to oversee governance of the South American country. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One early on Monday, Trump said he'd revisit the topic of Greenland in a few weeks.
We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security, and the European Union needs us to have it, and they know that.
That followed similar remarks on Sunday, which prompted the stiff rebuke from Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Friedrich Nielsen. Threats, pressure and talk of annexation have no place between friends, he posted on Facebook late on Sunday. Enough is enough. No more fantasies about annexation. Support came swiftly from Nordic and Baltic leaders. President Alexander Stubb of Finland posted on X, "No one decides for Greenland and Denmark, but Greenland and Denmark themselves." Greenland's strategic location between Europe and North America makes it a critical site in the US ballistic missile defense system, while its resources align with Washington's ambition to slash dependence on Chinese exports. On December 21, Trump appointed Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry as special envoy to Greenland. Landry has publicly expressed support for incorporating the territory into the United States.
Let's go in for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. Welcome back. A Paris court found 10 people guilty of cyber-harassing French First Lady Brigitte Macron by spreading false claims about her gender and sexuality, issuing penalties ranging from jail time to suspended sentences.
France's First Lady, Brigitte Macron, plagued by claims she's a transgender woman who was born a man. Today, 10 cyberbullies convicted for making or sharing degrading and insulting comments about her gender and sexuality. Aged between 41 and 60, the defendants' sentences range from cyberbullying awareness training to suspended 8-month prison sentences. Online, millions have viewed conspiracy theories that Brigitte Macron was born as Jean-Michel Trogneux, the name of her older brother. The French First Lady said in a TV interview that she wants to set an example. "I'm fighting all the time and I want to help teens fight against bullying," she added. The cyberbullies have also taken aim at the age gap between the First Lady and the President. Brigitte is 72, while Emmanuel Macron is 48, some linking the 24-year difference to pedophilia, as the couple first met when Brigitte was a teacher at the now President's high school. Today's verdict a victory for the First Lady ahead of another high-profile case in the United States. The Macrons have also filed a defamation complaint against the right-wing podcaster Candace Owens.
They are, in fact, lying to the public about Brigitte Macron's past identity.
It will be a tougher legal battle to win in the US due to freedom of speech laws.
Pressure mounted for answers after authorities identified all 40 victims, mostly teenagers, killed in a Swiss ski resort bar fire that prosecutors said was likely caused by sparkling candles igniting the ceiling.
All of the 40 victims killed in a fire at a Swiss ski resort bar have been identified. Most were teenagers. And amid condolences, pressure is building for answers as to why the tragedy took place. Prosecutors said the deadly fire that spread rapidly in the early hours of January 1st was likely caused by sparkling candles igniting the ceiling of the bar's basement. 116 others were injured. Authorities are investigating the 2 people who ran the bar in Crans-Montana on suspicion of crimes, including homicide by negligence. Police said on Sunday circumstances did not currently merit their arrest. One of the bar's 2 operators, Jacques Moretti, told Swiss media that the venue had been checked 3 times in 10 years and that everything was done according to the rules. But many are calling for accountability. Italian Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini said in a social media post, quote, "In civilized Switzerland, the prison gates will have to open for quite a few people." Salvini said there had been a failure to ensure the bar's basement was safe, questioning the emergency systems and whether there had been enough inspections. On Monday, Italy repatriated 5 of the 6 Italians who died in the fire. Crans-Montana will hold a ceremony Friday honoring the victims.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the Pentagon is seeking to downgrade Democratic Sen Mark Kelly's military retirement rank and pay because of a video Kelly and other Democratic lawmakers recorded urging members of the military and the intelligence community not to follow illegal orders from the Trump administration.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth tonight announcing the Pentagon is working to slash Senator Mark Kelly's military retirement rank and pay because of, quote, seditious statements.
We want to speak directly to members of the military.
Hegseth referring to this video posted by a group of Democratic lawmakers, including Kelly, in November.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
The lawmakers telling U.S. service members they can stand up to illegal orders, pointing to the Trump administration's use of the military in American cities.
Laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
Pete Hegseth citing U.S. code, saying his department has initiated retirement grade determination proceedings with a reduction in Kelly's retired grade, resulting in a corresponding reduction in retired pay. Senator Kelly, a retired U.S. Navy captain, firing back, writing in his own post, "I will fight this with everything I've got. Not for myself, but to send a message back that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump don't get to decide what Americans in this country get to say about their government." Hegseth is using an armed forces law that says a retired grade of any officer may be reopened if the applicable secretary determines, pursuant to regulations prescribed by the Secretary of Defense, that good cause exists.
To bring something like that against a retiree for something he said, much less a U.S. senator, that's pretty unprecedented.
Joseph Moreno worked as an Army lawyer for more than 25 years.
So you cannot engage in certain kinds of activities that could result in a reduction, and one of them is sedition. And that seems like where the Defense Department is going with this.
This recently resurfaced video from 2016 shows Hegseth himself addressing the military's right to refuse unlawful orders.
If you're doing something that is just completely unlawful and ruthless, then there is a consequence for that. That's why the military said it won't follow unlawful orders from their commander-in-chief.
The White House telling that Hegseth has been consistent. As he said, the military already has clear procedures for handling unlawful orders. The Pentagon's move setting up a rare fight, pitting the Defense Department against a sitting senator.
More than a year after the fall of the former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, thousands of displaced Syrians remain stranded in makeshift camps across northern Syria, facing freezing temperatures in the winter.
At Shams camp in Aleppo countryside, Niazas, tents were covered in snow this week as families scrambled to shovel the white cover and drain water from their shelters. Some children hurdled near tents while others walked through muddy pathways. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees said it was working to replace 3,924 tents across northwest Syria in response to urgent winter needs. According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, more than 3 million Syrians have returned home since the collapse of Assad's rule in December 2024, but a declining global funding could deter others. Some 1.2 million refugees in addition to 1.9 million internally displaced people have gone back home following the civil war that ended with Assad's overthrow, but millions more are yet to return according to the UNHCR. The agency said that much support was needed to ensure the trend continues. Overall, Syria's $3.19 billion humanitarian response was 29% funded in 2025, according to UN data, at a time when donors like the United States and others are making major cuts to foreign aid across the board. Some aid officials say Syria is one of the first crises to be hit by the funding cuts, because the end of the war means it no longer counts as an emergency eligible for priority funding. Others may have held back as they wait to see if authorities under President Ahmad al-Shara make good on promises of reform and accountability, including the massacres of the Alawite minority in March.
A hospital in Kherson and a private medical clinic in the capital Kyiv were among the locations hit. The strike came ahead of a meeting of European and US leaders in Paris as they seek to end the war.
Shattered windows at this hospital in Kherson after it was shelled by Russian forces on Monday. The director of the facility is trying to reassure people that the service is still functioning.
You can see the destroyed windows have simply been covered, repaired with wooden boards. But everything is functioning and the hospital is warm. We have our own boiler, so thank God everything is fine.
The attack left 2 people wounded. Over in Kyiv, strikes on a private medical clinic caused more extensive damage. The facility caught fire as a result, killing 1 person and injuring 3 others. The Sumy region was also targeted by drone attacks. On Monday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky sought to keep up the morale of his people.
Concrete steps have already been taken and they are clearly proving effective. In December, 35,000 occupiers were eliminated, and this has been confirmed with video footage. In November, there were 30,000, and in October, 26,000 eliminated occupiers. The increase in these figures is the result of the right decisions.
On Tuesday, European and US leaders will meet in the French capital in a renewed push to end the conflict, almost 4 years after Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Among those attending discussions will be US President Donald Trump's special envoy Steve Witkoff and son-in-law Jared Kushner. The so-called coalition of the willing are aiming for a breakthrough on a plan to end the war that Kyiv says is 90% ready. Security guarantees will also be discussed. Diplomatic endeavours to end the fighting have gained pace in recent weeks, though Moscow and Kyiv remain at loggerheads over the issue of territory in a post-war settlement.
Time for a short commercial break now. We'll be right back with more world news. Welcome back. A bald eagle under close watch after it was discovered in Gila, New Mexico, attempting to steal little piglets. In addition, another eagle was found and is undergoing a healing process after being electrocuted in California.
Oh my God, you're so beautiful. Oh my God. It makes me want to cry.
A bald eagle is under close watch after he was discovered in a pig pen in Gila, New Mexico. According to Gila Wildlife Rescue, the bird tried to capture piglets but was unsuccessful.
You can tell he was in a pig pen. He stinks.
Yep. When they got near the eagle and he didn't fly away, they realized something more was wrong and took him in for an exam with veterinarians from El Paso Zoo. The wildlife rehabilitators and authors say the eagle is battered and bruised, but there are no broken bones or lacerations on his body. Because he is so lethargic as well as emaciated and anemic, they are testing him for West Nile virus, avian influenza, and lead poisoning. Once stabilized and healthy, he will be released. Another injured bald eagle in Salinas, California is also being cared for after getting electrocuted. The SPCA Monterey County Wildlife Rescue and Rehabilitation Center said the eagle is dealing with several injuries, including a broken coracoid. That's the bone that connects a bird's shoulder to its keel to enable flight. The Rehabilitation Center states that because electrocution is a slow developing injury, it could take days to weeks before they know how injured the bird is. But they are hopeful the bird can continue rehab and make a full recovery.
Michelle Newton spent her first holiday season with her long-lost father Joe and the extended family she never knew of. Michelle unraveled the true colors of her mother, who was arrested for abducting little Michelle at the age of 3.
It's a family reunion more than 4 decades in the making.
Love you.
Michelle Newton is spending her first holiday season with her long-lost father, Joe, and the extended family she never knew she had, all 70 of them.
Overwhelming in the best way possible. Everyone has been open arms, and it's been really exciting to hear about some of their life stories and things that they've gone through.
Michelle's world was turned upside down 6 weeks ago when her mother, Deborah, was arrested after 42 years on the run for allegedly abducting her at the age of 3. She apparently thought the law would never catch up with her and expressed total shock when cops came to her house at the village's retirement community outside Orlando.
We're here for you, ma'am. Definitely here for you.
Whoa, why?
During her interrogation, she said she had severed all ties to her parents and wondered if they were still alive.
Do you know if my parents are alive?
They are not alive. Your sister is.
Her husband, a retired cop, was allowed to visit her.
I ran away. I left my mom. I left my dad. I left my sister.
See, I never even knew you had a sister.
He pretty much just came out and said, you know, you're a missing person, you're not who you think you are, and your mom's been arrested, and this is your name.
Father Joe, who is now 67, never stopped looking for her. Just last year, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children created this age progression poster of how Michelle might look as an adult.
I simply knew. There was no doubt that was my daughter. There was no doubt that I found what I was missing for 40 years.
Love you.
I love you too, Aaron.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Amasha Fernando, and we leave you tonight with the visuals of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Ras Al Khaimah welcoming the new year. Also, don't forget to send us your feedback through email at feedback.adncenglish@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Thank you for watching World News Tonight on other Derana News channel. Have a good night.